and welcome to the Dr. Music Podcast once again, where today I have Maurizio Iacono with me. Maurizio is the vocalist for Juno Award-winning hardcore death metal band Kataklysm. It's got to sound great to you, man.
It's always good, you know.
He is also the CEO of the boutique record label Distortion Music Group, as well as having started Hard Impact Music, a management company that's home for metal artists worldwide. On August 11th, Maurizio and Kataklysm will release their 15th full-length record. That is just crazy to even say.
Right.
It's called Goliath, and it is on the Nuclear Blast Records label. Maurizio, thanks so much, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. And the first thing I noticed, we gotta cover this. Nuclear Blast. You have a partnership, obviously, with Distortion. But you're on this record's going to be on the Nuclear Blast Records label. It raises some questions for me. How does that actually work for you? How is that partnership? Explain that partnership a little.
Well, so Nuclear Blast has a subdivision distribution company called Blood Blast. So my company, Distortion Music Group, is kind of a record label that's designed to help develop bands or kind of have give bands more independence for those who are established and want to keep going mostly on their own. So we're kind of a satellite to bands, right? So we kind of go in there and help them getting noticed, and at the same time maintain or increase the band's popularity by working with them. So we have a structure. Label is very young. It's only, I think, a year and a half now, going on a year and a half, and it's been doing pretty good. And that's the type of thing I got with them on that level. But Kataklysm obviously has been with Nuclear Blast for, I think, now 25 years or something like that. We've been there. We're the oldest band signed to NB right now. I mean, the longest running. We're not the oldest. There's older dudes on there than me, but we're definitely the oldest signed band, the one that's been there the longest. And we've put out 14 out of the 15 records with them. So it's a long time. So this marks the 15th record. Very excited about it. And, came together pretty well.
Yeah, awesome. 15 records, man. That's 32 years or something like that for the band.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And you guys, there's something about your brand of what you do that's different from the others that I hear. There's a lot of great death metal bands and heavier stuff in the same genre, but there's something that keeps people coming back to Kataklysm, and it's pretty great, man. It's good to see you guys hanging out. Distortion Music Group, I see that on one of the great records that I've heard in this year for sure, maybe the past decade, Seven Kingdoms record.
Right.
Just an amazing record.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Camden, good friend, lives in Orlando right here, very close to me.
Yeah.
Florida, and I've known him for a long time. And he didn't have a good ending with Napalm Records. It didn't end up being too good for them. And then I said, hey, if you need some help, we can, we could partner up, and you have all your independence. And so we kind of did a deal together, and it's a great record. I mean, the band's great. It just needs to get exposed, and we've been doing that. I mean, we put them on a bunch of tours, and we got them on the Powerwolf gigs here in the United States, which helped a lot. And now I got him overseas with Windrose on that European tour. So I think he did a good thing.
Yeah, I think he's going to be very happy, because he was not very happy. I know at the end there. Denied their European, the funds to get over there. It's great that you guys pick them up because they are an amazing band. I just had a chance to see them with Windrose and Rhapsody of Fire. Great in the live setting too. Amazing vocalist. He's a great guitarist. It's a great band. People check that record out, and as we wait for the Kataklysm record, Go check out that Zenith record. It's a great one. Good to see him on that label. How involved are you with recruiting bands. I know, you have that story with Seven Kingdoms. Is that a common thing? Is that a common story that you'll tell with the other bands on the label? Or
Um, it's well, everybody has their own. There's not one band that's the same, so everybody has their own needs.
Mhm.
So we kind of try and give the bands their proper due, and within realistic terms. Obviously, if you look at the industry right now and everything around the world is kind of crazy everywhere, and
Yeah.
trying to do our best because physical dying, and we're becoming more and more of a digital record label. Although I'm more of a physical guy myself,
Right.
it's just the industry is kind of shifting dramatically right now, more and more. So it's almost like CDs and vinyls are collectible. That's
Yeah.
all this is at the moment. So it's more like, hey, I bought your record. It's like almost a poster, that for your
Right.
album streaming in my thingy. And so at the beginning of this record label thing, I did it also because of that pandemic that happened, and I wanted to have something that I can do in the case of something like this happens or whatever. We have an outlet that we can push music out and become more and more independent, because I think that's where everything's going anyways. And so I started with bands that were friends with me, like Men Must Die, Stillbirth, and all these bands that have been working with us are kind of already part of my entourage, or like they're part of my satellites. So
Right.
Seven Kingdoms being one of them. Windrose, we released their first records, and we released those things. And so it's kind of a thing for the future that I'm gonna have on the set. It's more of a sideline for me right now, because I do have the management company, which keeps me very busy. I have a lot of bands on there, and then I also have the agency. I'm kind of as well, because I started that agency in the United States that's booking like probably half of every tour you're seeing right now
That's
coming through.
great.
So very busy, very kind of person that's wants to give bands a chance, because as the world progresses, it becomes more and more the elites in the metal scene and rock scene that are kind of eating everything up on the top, and then the bottoms remains really big, and then there's nobody in the middle to bring these bands up. So we're kind of filling that hole right there.
Yeah.
So kind of a middle class business, for that, and trying to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's a blessing, man. Bands need you. Yeah, it's great. It's great to see
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.
And you're in at least two that I know of, bands that you know what it's like to put out music and to work hard and not get noticed, or get
Oh,
noticed
yeah.
on a minimal level. Uh
Yeah, bands trust me on that also, because that's the thing where they know I know the battle, I know the game, I know what club they're playing,
mhm.
what the pre-sales is determines what they're going to give you for food, like all
Right.
kinds of different situation. And so if they tell me, hey, I broke down in this area and I know exactly where they are or whatever's going on, so I'm kind of a soldier on the ground, you know what I mean, as well. So,
Yeah.
and I want to remain that, because that's what keeps me going also, so it's both things. Cataclysm is the reason all this is happening also, because that's where I started, and by
Mhm.
making mistakes, by other bands not giving me opportunities, I felt always like that. Like, what if I would have gotten that? So I'm trying to be the opposite of that with bands.
Yeah. It's great. I love to see that, because we had so much of that opposite of that, with the labels taking advantage of bands in every way they could, and there's the exact opposite of that, people looking out for bands on the way up, and
Right.
we need that for sure.
Yeah.
Um, you stopped playing bass in '98 in Cataclysm.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I'm heading towards an Ex Deo thing here, because
Right. Right.
there's so many tie-ins. Ex Deo, of course, for people who don't know, another band that you're involved with that is
Mhm.
very close to the Cataclysm family. Uh,
Right.
Almost the concept almost Sabaton like with the Roman Empire, where Sabaton
Right.
does battles,
Right.
not in sound but in concept.
Like
Uh,
it sounds more death metal, yeah, but yeah, symphonic kind of.
yeah, there's some strings, a little bit different outlet, and you play bass
Right.
in with Ex Deo still. But you're not playing bass in the Cataclysm. world.
No.
Did that change things for you, like in the way you write, and the way you approach the band?
Well, I write in Ex Deo, a lot of bass lines. I do a lot of things like that as well. But I don't play live bass with Ex Deo.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, it's not something I do anymore. I found it very difficult when I went to vocals in Kataklysm to keep doing bass and vocals. It's very difficult for me to do both, because I'm a type of guy that has to entertain. I see it as a stage guy that you have to be out there and give you 100%. And when you have to concentrate on an instrument plus do that, it's not the same thing. So I wanted to have that vision of keeping Kataklysm as it was. So going into Ex Deo, I had more control over writing. So that kind of gave me a little opportunity to keep going back in there again. You know what I mean?
Right. Now in '98, you get Stefan Barb, right?
Yes.
Who plays lead guitar in Ex Deo, right?
Right. We're all over the place. Yeah, but because he's originally a guitar player, so Stefan's a guitar player, right? So he came into Kataklysm at the time we were looking for a bass player, because I was switching it over to vocals, so we needed to fill my shoes up. And so he's like, hey, I'll play bass for the band. I could play bass also. So he just wanted the band, and so he took over the bass. Then he told me, you know what, I prefer bass because I could keep drinking like I do, and I can play bass. It's easier than playing the guitar. so he came on board and became a bass player, but in his core guitar player. So that's why he plays with a pick. That's why he's also a big writer, So going to Ex Deo, I told him, why don't you go back to what you really want to do, right? Which is playing guitar, and then he said, all right, let's do that too. I says, I love both. So
that's awesome.
We try to kind of keep ourselves happy in our world, It's like without forcing somebody to do something they don't want to do,
Right. And that's, I think it's got to be fun. You got to enjoy it, Otherwise it becomes work, a lot of work. You guys work, I think that's one thing fans sometimes don't realize is how hard a band works. Especially touring and shit like that is crazy. It is excruciating, man. So I recognize that you got to make it fun for sure. Jean-Francois, your guitar player. I think, and I said, I think you guys are different than the other great death metal stuff. There's a lot of very good death metal bands. You guys are, I think, a little bit different, and I think it starts with those guitar sounds are different. They're, I think a lot in the genre, you get a grinding sound, you get that double bass thing with the drums. But it tends to be oversaturated with the same sound. So you guys don't do that. I hear harmony guitars and a really complex melodic guitar parts and things that are put in with something that isn't quite melodic. It's a little more so that I think it starts there. And so on the guitar parts, does Jean-Francois work with Stefan on those guitar parts? Do they
do it? Like, I mean, it depends on the situation. Jeff is very autonomous, like he's in his world, and he's very when he starts writing, he goes on a wave, and then in that wave he rides it, and then he brings it back home, and then we're like, okay, I need to build a surfboard now to put on top of this thing, because sometimes it's real violent and sometimes it's very smooth, so it depends how on his mood. But he is definitely probably the biggest influence as far as like a trademark for the band's sound, because he's the guy that writes, he's the guy that is his way of playing. It doesn't matter like if we like Goliath, we have down tuned down to B or whatever the craziness we're at now. I don't know that stuff too much, but we're 7-string, and even changing our sound like that for the last 2 records, it's still Kataklysm. Like, even if he plays it, it's him. That's very rare thing. He'll do a Slayer cover and it sounds like Kataklysm. So it's like, yeah, it's just the way he plays, and that's kept us in that unique phase, you know.
Yeah.
So a combination of all of us together makes Cataclysm what it is. He's bringing something. So like Steph's going to be more a guy that likes the traditional death metal. He'll like that black metal stuff in there too. He'll write very kind of cut veiny type of riffs and stuff. And JF's an Iron Maiden fan, right? So that's anything melodic, anything that's fast or the big engine riffs. That's him, right?
Yeah.
And I like the grooves. I like the grooves. I like the Pantera stuff. So like
Right.
that style of riffing, Fear Factory, Sting, Machine Head. Like, so basically the combination of all that gives Cataclysm that unique sound, which is difficult to replicate, you know?
Yeah, and yeah, that's exactly what I hear. All those things, you know,
Yeah.
it makes it an interesting listen. To whereas, you know, some metal bands play well. It's just a little flat in style.
Right.
You guys are just you throwing all of that stuff in there, and it's just a big feast. It's really, really great. Um,
Thank you.
with Goliath, we can expect that same thing. Is there anything that you like in the writing and the recording of this record? Is there anything that you said we want to do more of this or that? Any intentions with the record?
A very innocent record in the sense that it got written actually during the end of the lockdown pandemic, whatever you want to call it, like during that period of time.
Okay.
Everybody wants to forget already. But in 22, we started writing this record at the beginning of 22, which was kind of like the descent of all this thing. We started seeing some hope that it's going to end somehow.
Yep.
And but we still had so much in us over the last 2 years of just 2.5 years of just staying home and opening up our eyes, looking at things around us. You know, one of the reasons the album is called Goliath has a lot to do with that as well. You know, there's this thing where it made us realize that that we're not as free as we think we are in this world, you know. And it's there was a lot of heavy push, heavy-handed things that happened that we didn't like too much. And especially when you're a touring band that needs to do a lot of things and you know how to you explore the world so much like we have. You know, Cataclysm split in, you know, over 40 something countries. You know, we get to the point where it's like, you know, in 1 minute that was all taken away. And then, you know, we're at a place where, to me, even the basic things of freedom of speech or freedom of choice and things like that are becoming very, very, very difficult. And it's almost like it's under attack in certain things, you know.
Yep.
So the Goliath, and that's, you know, to me, these are given rights that it's not even given rights, are human rights that for us allow us to do what we're doing right now. Like, you're a journalist, right, or you're like a podcaster, you're in this world, and you get to talk and we get to debate, we get to discuss things. And I think it should remain something that we should protect. And Goliath is kind of like the machine versus us, right? You know, and like just trying to fight and keeping. And what's amazing about it is this is something that thousands of years old, and we haven't changed as humans, right? Like, you move it forward, we're just a modern version of it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I said, without going too deep in all that stuff, it's just one of those things where this record brought us into that more aggressive mode. The riffs are very dramatic. It's a very emotional record, right? And it goes from really, really heavy stuff to, you know, stuff you got to think about, and then, you know, it's you got to listen to the whole record. You can't just go one song and it's done. This record is start to finish type, you know.
Nice. Is it a concept record?
Yeah, you know, like I said, it's about finding yourself and staying true to yourself, and especially, you know, fighting your demons, because first you have to take care of that, and once you take care of that, you have the confidence, and then with that, you're positive into going into the world, and whatever happens, I think you remain complete, you know, just because you were able to do stuff like that. So lyrical concept coming from that, musical aggressiveness from 3 years of bullshit, and now we're like, we're actually very, you know, big benefits. This record is doing very well for us already off the start, so it's looking like one of our fastest growers, and we're happy already. It's not even out yet, and it's looking good.
Yeah, it's great, man. I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah,
When you got something, I think that's a silver lining for all of this, pandemic and isolation and quarantine stuff. Uh,
yeah.
it's created some anger, it's created emotion of all kinds, and throwing that into music can be a powerful thing, man.
It's a therapy, right? Music's therapy, especially for
Yep.
us. It's always been therapy. One of our successes, I think, that kept us going all these years is the connection between our lyrics, our thoughts, and what the people are feeling. The Cataclysm has always been kind of an outcast in the world, and so are metalheads.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like we are already our own breed in this. Like, so if you look at and you look at the rest of the world, just to absorb this type of music, you have to be a special kind of person. You have to be a special kind of individual that's kind of like saying, hey man, part of everything that's going on, I'm a little different. I have my way of thinking. And so
Yep.
concerts, I love festivals where all of us get that place. It's kind of like our church, that we all get together and we
Yep.
understand each other, and there's no politics, there's no religion, we're all in there like
Yep.
having a good time, you know what I mean? And everybody goes and does their thing,
Yeah.
and that's it. I think I
It,
love that about being metal.
I do too, man. And then, I got two kids, and when they were younger, I put them in that world, because that's the world I grew up in. And, it's a safe place. It's like you say, it's almost like a church for me. Uh,
Yeah,
they're my people. They'll take care of me and care
yeah.
for me. Just like caring for each other. And my kids are, they're 20 in their 20s now. And they get that. That's their say, they run to that place, which is great to see.
Which is great. That's great.
Yeah.
And it's positive. Cataclysm's message across the board is one of positivity. You know what I mean? And that's what we want to keep doing.
Yeah. And that's, I think that maybe that's another unusual thing too. It goes to dark places, but there's the overall feel of it is a positive thing.
The
If
end result,
good after I
yeah,
listen to it.
it's gonna have the dark overtone, right?
Hmm.
And then we are in a metal world, and it's aggressive, and we're tough dudes and whatever, but deep down we're not all like that, and it's
Right.
it's one of those things where, to me, at the end, it's finding that drive to overcome. And bands like Hatebreed do that a lot as well. Like, they're very like pro um um uh, pick yourself up and get to the finish line. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, like, that to me is very important. I'm a very big competitor. If I finish second, I'm mad. I want to win. So that's the thing. But the most important thing at the end is to finish what you start. So whatever position you end, at least you finish the challenge. You know what I mean? And to
Right.
me, that's very important. So we're all structured different, and that's what makes the world great, and
Yeah.
beautiful. It's the fact that we're all different, but we can all contribute something. And the metal scene's the same. Like you say, look at you. You're like Seven Kingdoms, Cataclysm. That's very different worlds. But
Yeah.
we all connect. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's supposed to be a good world to be in, man. And to
Yeah.
keep it positive for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I want to go back to Ex Deo a little bit.
Yeah.
Talking about darkness. The Imperator video is probably the darkest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a great video. It had to be fun to do.
Oh yeah, we went to Atlanta for that. We can go to Rome.
Man, it was great. When you write for that, it's got to be different. The writing for the Ex Deo stuff as opposed to the Cataclysm stuff. How do you keep the separation there? Is there a separation?
Well, it's Ex Deo's way, like, it's way more difficult for me because Cataclysm is it's an extension of myself, and the boys in the band, their output and my output, which is more everyday life, right? So I'm using a biblical thing, like I'm using a historic thing with Goliath, but the idea is like what's going on now. It's from the past, but it's kind of modernized to now, right?
Right.
As is Ex Deo, it's historic. So basically, happened. So you have to kind of recollect that stuff and put it in the right context And then don't make a mistake, because everybody's a historian out there, and somebody goes, hey,
Yeah.
this didn't happen. So it's difficult in that context, because it's the way you got to express it. And I try to make it like a movie soundtrack, like, so when I sing, I'm do narratives and I do all kinds of stuff in Ex Deo, where I'm actually trying to be emperor, and then narrate him, and then I'm going into the death metal, which is the enemy or whatever. I play that game, but that takes a lot of energy and takes a lot of do that. And then on top of it, you got to be able to close your eyes. Are you in Rome when you listen to it? And that's the challenging part. So it's way harder to establish that stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it is fun though. It's a blast. Really a lot of fun to listen to. And I think it's got to be a great outlet for you. To do something
My heritage.
different. What was that?
Yeah, and it's my heritage. It's my heritage as well,
Right.
because I'm Italian origin, so I grew up around that stuff, and it's like the country where my parents are from, and so Italy is like, I don't know if you've ever been, but it's a mecca of like history. It's
Right.
you're walking down the street touching a wall that's been there 2,500 years. It's like,
Right.
so they got it's a crazy ambiance, and you feel it when you're there, that there's so much has happened here.
Right.
And then so, but yeah, you take it for granted when it's your country. So
Hmm.
that's the thing. Like for me, like I grew up in it, but once I first went there, and I was like, you know what? We need a metal band that talks about this. That's what I was thinking, because this is, all the crazy stuff that happened here, all those crazy emperors and
Right.
all the stuff. And I was like, the sign of the cross, which is like, came from the Romans, and then it's so widely used in metal, like all this stuff. I was like, there's got to be one at least that does that, and I couldn't relate with the Vikings, because that's not me, that's my heritage. So I
Right.
like music, but it's just not. So I thought it was a project, and we're still doing it. We plan to make some more music for it, in the future. So, as
Cool.
long as we got the ideas and the energy, we're going to do it.
Ah, that's great, man. That's great because I enjoy that too, man. It's a nice side project to the
Yeah.
Cataclysm stuff. I love what you guys do as musicians and the way you vocalize. It's great to hear you guys doing what you do. Um you're taking the show on the road, right? You got some touring to do here?
Yeah. We're going to do some festivals in August in Europe. We're doing Wacken, Summer Breeze, Metal Days, and Partisan, and a bunch of festivals all over Europe. We're doing about 2 weeks of that. And after that, we're going to be, I think it's a total of 12 shows. And then we're coming back here. We're going to be continuing to promote this record for a few months. We're taking a break. The first of this year, we were out, right? So it was Cataclysm with Soul Work, and we
Right.
did all of Europe, and then we came back and did South America. We did 35 countries, 72 shows in 3 months. So that burnt us out a little bit. So we're kind of going to take it easy the rest of the year, but then we're going to start the campaign for Goliath in Canada, probably in December. Do a couple of shows in there before Christmas to start getting the engine going again, and then next year we'll be kind of campaigning for the record.
All right. You're coming down visit me here in Chicago?
I hope so. I
I
used to
hope
live
so
there.
too. Yeah.
Did you know I
Oh,
lived
yeah.
there? Yeah. I lived in
Cool.
Chicago for a long time. I was on, I believe when I first moved there, I was in Emerald, next to Wrigley Field and Emerald Avenue. I used to live there. And
Fantastic.
then,
That's where I grew up.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
used to live there with the delis right in the back there, and they make the best steak sandwiches right in the back there, Italian. I remember what it's called now. It's not Paisans. Paisans a pizza place.
Yeah, right.
Stuff. And then my son's, I'm actually going there for his birthday soon to say hi to him. So yeah, I lived there. Then I lived in the suburbs a little bit. I ended up living all the way in Plainfield before I moved to Florida.
Wow. And I'm in Naperville right now.
You're in Naperville, yeah.
Yep.
So I spent a lot of time in Naperville. So yeah, I built
Wow.
a house out there in Plainfield, and I liked it because it was all open, and it
Yep.
was really cool. Naperville is very nice, very nice. Downtown's awesome over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great, man. That's great. You got to come back and and play here, man.
I will, I will, I will.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll see you
Yeah.
there.
That's great. Yeah, we'll hang and beers on me, man.
All right, that sounds like a
Yeah, yeah.
plan.
Very cool. Very cool. Maurizio, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the music. So many years. It's a blessing, man. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Scott. Appreciate you, man. So
Thank you.
hopefully we'll see each other soon in China.
What was that?
Hopefully I'll see you soon in Chi-town.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right,
Yeah.
man. And safe travels everywhere else. And yeah, I'll see you when you get here.
Thank you, man.
All
Cheers.
right. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.